Welcome to the Innovations in Clinical Implementation podcast, the Ovation Lab and A4M series helping clinicians translate advanced tools and technologies into scalable Monday morning practice implementation. We're here at LongevityFest 2025, where preventative, personalized, and longevity medicine are rapidly becoming mainstream expectations from patients. I'm Dr. Lexi Gonzales, naturopathic doctor and senior clinical implementation and AI specialist at Ovation Lab. Today, we're joined by Sunita Mohanty and Crystal Brust to explore how Vibrant is helping clinicians supercharge their practice through AI, precision diagnostics, and workflow automation, creating what they call the vibrant future of healthcare. Sunita Mohanty is the CEO and co-founder of Vibrant Practice, an AI-powered practice platform built to help clinicians launch, grow, and operate modern personalized medicine and longevity practices. A veteran AI product leader and health tech investor, she previously led AI experiences for smart glasses at Meta and has focused her career on making more human, relationship-centered, and accessible AI technologies. At Vibrant Practice, Sunita sits at the intersection of AI, business strategy, and functional medicine, partnering with clinician entrepreneurs and clinicians to build thriving patient-centered practices. Crystal Brust is a functional medicine physician assistant and founder of Farm to Functional Medicine, our virtual practice focused on root cause, lifestyle-centered care. Trained as a PA at Stanford University and certified at the Institute for Functional Medicine, she blends conventional training and advanced functional medicine to help patients navigate cardiometabolic, hormonal, gut, and immune health challenges through highly personalized, evidence-informed plans. Thank you both for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks.
So we're at LongevityFest today, and this weekend, and we're seeing this shift from sick care to prevention and longevity and deep personalization. So from both of your vantage points, what's the biggest barrier clinicians face in making that transition in regards to knowledge, workflow, technology, or all of the things that clinicians are now responsible for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest barriers for me in transitioning was documentation. And the time it takes because you have so much extensive information with the functional patient, your intake forms, your timelines and matrix and mapping everything. And then all of that information, not only the time it takes, but then implementing that and explaining all of that to your patient and then not being able to see very many patients throughout a day because of the amount of time that all of that takes. And you don't want to skip that step. I'm very passionate about being functionally trained with the Institute of Functional Medicine and the foundation that gave me with my patient connections, but it's time consuming to be able to do that. So I didn't want to not be able to have that connection with my patient, but also wanted to be able to see multiple patients throughout a day to actually have a thriving business.
And without diluting the quality of care that I know that you deliver too, which is so hard.
So hard. It's so interesting. I'm not a clinician, but working with hundreds of clinicians through building Vibrant and just seeing, I think the challenge of this kind of work and practice, it takes detective work. It takes, makes you a data scientist. It makes you somebody who has to now understand human psychology and coaching and how to do behavior change. And all of these things just take a lot of time. And unfortunately, so much of the model of traditional care doesn't enable that, whether that's because of how it's incentivized and paid for, and then also just all of the documentation and pieces and the systems around it that haven't been built for that kind of care. So it is really just seems, I had an autoimmune journey and I worked with a naturopathic and a functional doctor, and I was just blown away by how manual the whole process was. I mean, I was blown away by how in-depth it was, but also just how manual. And I thought, wow, this is going to change so rapidly with what is happening now with technology.
Well, thank goodness for people like you to give us an actual solution to burnout versus, maybe potentially seeing less patients or changing in that way. And, AI is a hot topic here at A4M, but most clinicians are still feeling very overwhelmed with where to start. So from both of your perspectives, what do you feel like are the first practical steps a clinic can take to start integrating AI without completely disrupting their current workflows?
Yeah, I think, from where I started, using things like ChatGPT and just some very basic AI implementation just to help, with the knowledge base and organize information. But what really changed is when I started working with the Vibrant system, which was an actual AI incorporated into my medical record. And we'll talk about that more, but that was a game-changing event.
Yeah. What's so cool about all the technology that's available now is that it's freely available. It's really easy to get started, and it's actually so much less intimidating than using technology prior because it's very intuitive. You just talk to it or you text it or and it's not rocket science at all. So I think some of the best things are to just get started. Try ChatGPT, but also try asking the same questions in Claude and in Gemini and in a few of the different models so that you understand the differences amongst them. So I think that's like a good first test is just try that out. I think the other technology that's really changed the game for healthcare providers, in particular healthcare clinicians, is the AI scribing. And
Oh my gosh.
I can only imagine, how much time it took you prior, but to not have to worry about that, to be able to hold eye contact, like it just seems game changing.
That's the biggest part. I feel like everyone I talked to when I first started doing AI were so worried that it was going to take away from the therapeutic partnerships. And I think it's only opened it up completely. When I'm talking to a patient, I have an hour and a half long visit and I'm not writing anything down. I'm actually being present, talking to my patient and creating this amazing partnership that I've looked for a long time as a clinician. So it's not just about what their experience is. It's us as too, as physicians or in PAs and Ps, what our relationship is with our patient that really brings that joy back. And AI Scribe absolutely does that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. And what's great about the scribe is it can also capture things that you may not have had time to document in the context of a visit. So there's also this enhancement of the health record itself. Just because you're capturing more data you weren't able to do manually.
Absolutely.
So in that way, I'm so appreciative for AI scribes. And so let's talk about Vibrant, because when we first started talking about Vibrant almost a year ago, actually, it was almost this magic wand that you could wave for clinicians and not having to do even the manual process it takes right now to engage with AI. So for those of us that aren't familiar with the Vibrant Practice platform, can you dive into basically how you started it and what inspired you to build something like this for clinicians?
Yeah, absolutely. So I come from building AI at Meta and as a technologist, and then, coming through my own health journey as a patient. I mean, I'm not a clinician, but my observations were just that wow, there is so much room for new systems and new ways to think just, really from first principles about how the workflow should work today, where it shouldn't be 5 different disconnected systems that you're manually pulling information from. And when you think about the future of what AI is going to enable with more agentic work, with more contextually driven, personalized kind of experiences that we will all be having, it actually becomes really important to not just have stitched together technology, but more full stack kinds of solutions. And especially when it comes to things like health, and medical workflows, understanding and having the source of record of the EHR record itself is actually really important because it's not only having that record, but adding to it and making it as rich as possible. Because today, the kind of concept of a traditional health record is actually only this like small portion of data, like 25% of like what is actual, if I had to guess of what is the actual amount of, the exhaust of data that patients are now creating, whether that's through wearables, advanced diagnostics that are coming in that just don't know, traditional EHRs don't know how to structure that data and hold it. And so our concept was, well, first of all, we have to give clinicians as perfect context as we can about patients. We have to be able to collect all of that context. And then we have to have clinicians be able to work with that because a human brain actually can't process all of that in and of itself. You can only do that with the help of AI.
As we try to, we absolutely can't.
Yeah, exactly. And not only can you not process just the sheer amount of data, but you also can't process keeping up with the new information that's coming in. And I think that's something that's going to be even more important as Vibrant continues to grow. But we see ourselves as being a really important translational layer. All of this, this rapid cycle of innovation that's happening in longevity and health and just an understanding of, this, and as AI increases, we're just going to get more rapid advancements happening that become hard to have clinicians and patients actually get that into their hands and figure out what to use. But I think with the help of AI, this can actually be part of what clinicians now can use at their fingertips so that AI can help clinicians be the judge or translator or interpreter. I heard somebody, use that word recently of all of this information that's coming through. So that's what Vibrant does. Vibrant is a core electronic health record along with this layer of intelligence on top of it that helps pull in all of this different data, whether that's through our own APIs. You can order labs through Vibrant, order prescriptions and all of this stuff. You can upload data that isn't ordered directly through Vibrant. And then you can have this layer of intelligence, your co-pilot there with you in the chart, helping you jam on what's going on with this patient. You also have all of these other AI native features like an AI scribe just built into your workflow, an automated way of creating patient-friendly summaries after your visit so that everything is, if you could wave a magic wand and build a system today, what would it look like? So that's what we've built.
That's amazing. And I think too, what's important is when we think about the amount of tools and manual effort that it would take to recreate that, by yourself, you have your scribe, you have your EHR, you have whatever LLM you're using to create patient, you might have a separate PHI or HIPAA protected large language model. You might use a different one for evidence curation.
Yeah.
That's a lot of, control, copy, paste throughout all of those platforms. That still takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, Crystal, how has Vibrant changed your
Oh
practice?
my gosh. I'm so passionate to talk about this because it is really, it has brought so much joy to documentation for me. And who can say that as a person?
Yeah, I'm like, did the
That's
listeners hear that?
That's an
Joy back to documentation.
Exactly.
Creativity that I had no idea was a possibility in documentation. And the creativity part is kind of the light bulb as I was thinking about this podcast that it is so exciting for me because as practitioners, we're all pretty creative in the way we approach information. But now I have access. I feel like Iron Man, from the movie. And they have this just panels of all this information that are just specific for my patient. So it's not this generalized information. It's based on all of the work that I've put in, all of the questionnaires, all of the visits that we've done and those, connections that we've made. And then on top of that, I bring in advanced genetic testing or, GI effects, whatever test it is I bring in, and I'm able to queue all of that information into one spot and be able to translate so much of that to my patient. That was never possible in my other clinic. And to me, I mean, I've had instances where I get done with all of this information, send it to my patient, and I'm just elated because of what I was able to create. And it's absolutely changed the way I practice.
Wow.
Amazing.
And something that I think has come up in previous conversations that has been, very enlightening for me is all of these records and labs that patients accumulate over time. They essentially become these, dead documents that just sit in a folder somewhere that you may manually look through at some point when it's relevant. And I'm hearing from you is it now becomes this very interactive platform for you to really synergize all of those data points in a way that you just literally couldn't do before.
Absolutely. I've had patients tell me I've taken, information from the last 4 years, extensive information, and then used AI to organize all of that in a digestible form for the patient themselves. And they've said that, I've never been able to actually understand my health the way I just did. And that's just
putting all the pieces together for once is really powerful. I love that. And then on the flip side, I know we were just talking about how as a one of our providers who was here at the conference shared her experience with me over the last couple of weeks using Vibrant, where she was like, wow, I didn't realize I would be learning things through this. It's not just summarizing and kind of, pulling all this data together, but it's actually helping me grow as a clinician and teaching me things that I didn't realize or wasn't thinking about. And I think that's where this translational layer is going to continue to be really powerful, where as a clinician, you can't keep up with all that's coming and all that is out there. And especially as you're digging deeper into, so much complexity of like whole person health, it's hard. And so it's really, really cool to hear somebody say something like that this is actually a platform that can help you grow and evolve too.
Right. And I think that's very unique, right? We're hearing about a lot of clinicians learning, but once you alleviate some of that cognitive load, now you have the ability to be creative and enjoy documentation and, learn new things about your patient's chart. So I wonder if we could just dive into, you work a lot both with clinicians that are transitioning over to Vibrant. What are some of the hesitations that clinicians might have that we can address here that Vibrant essentially provides a solution for as they're transitioning EHR systems? Because I know as a clinician, you feel very loyal to your EHR system that you've been a part of, and it's really hard for docs to learn new technology.
Yes.
So what are some of the kind of support that Vibrant provides?
Well, so it is a big daunting thing, right? To change your technology, and it feels so heavy. You've been ingrained, your workflows are how this thing works. And you kind of don't know what you don't know about how much better it could be, which is I think what we're learning from some of our providers where they're like, I didn't even know, and I was so scared of this change, but oh my gosh, has it been so much better? So I think the thing that we try to make easier. One, the movement of your records, of your systems, of your tools. We do a lot of thoughtful work with you to make sure that movement is smooth, and also we now live in a time where records can be moved much easier than even just a couple years ago because of fire standards, because of the way that just architecting these documents now works. So that is one way that we can alleviate the fear that you will lose things in your records. We use AI to help make sure that it's actually structured in a better way than often than when we get the data. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is just being hands-on in there, as you're not just left on an island to figure this out. So our team is humans as well, and actually Crystal is a big part of that and helps our providers on board. So we have a whole practice success team who is there. We do live sessions every week. We have Slack channels that are very vibrant with conversations happening with our team and debugging anything that's going on. And then Crystal is one of our amazing clinicians who teaches others about how to use Vibrant in their clinical workflows. We have a lot of hands-on support to make sure that you feel supported.
I think an important part of it is you can go in and look at an EMR, in setting like this, but you really don't understand all of the joy that it can bring you in the time as a practitioner. And so that's what I'm really passionate about, is talking to our providers that are joining about what it actually means, not just the black and white EMR, but actually what that actual joy means as a provider to your practice, and the difference that can make.
And I think that the last thing is just also we found just a sense of really cool community growing
I love
amongst our
that.
practices. Yeah. And so people are sharing with each other like what they're doing. Everyone is in a learning mode in evolving to this kind of practice. And so it's been really fun, and we'll be doing a lot more around that as we look into 2026. So really excited about that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think something that's important for listeners is I have no tech background. I'm an AI specialist only because we've been practicing and diving into the tools. And what I love about what you just said is, the practitioners aren't expected to be AI experts to engage in an AI EHR system. So that is a huge, I think, relief to hear that.
Yeah, perfect example, about, but it also gives the creativity that it brings out when you take that leap is just absolutely mind blowing. And I think starting a practice too, Vibrant has just been instrumental because of all of the tools that come with the system itself. So messaging and faxing and all of it, it's all in one system. I'm not going to different silos to get all of this done.
Right.
So as someone who's starting a practice, I think especially it's also really beneficial.
Wow. And with these last few minutes, I'm wondering, Crystal, can you dive into like a case where you felt like Vibrant was just a game changer for how you were able to deliver care?
Oh, actually, we were just talking about this at dinner last night. So I had a patient that had seen multiple functional providers. So had tons of information that they came in with, right? And they said, well, this meant this and this meant this, but they could not put the whole picture together. And so through a functional medicine approach, with doing her whole timeline and mapping her matrix and really understanding her root cause, what was happening, but then being able to use AI to build in all of that information with her genetic testing, especially. And so I was able to identify some pretty big genetic issues, but then matched with all of the history that we've gained, why she has liver fibrosis.
Wow.
And then what the steps are next to go, used AI to build out, given her very personal information, how we were going to, step by step approach her future. And I couldn't have done that in a week.
Right. She might be your only patient.
Yeah. Just trying to dig through all of that.
I just felt like, superhero after that. And it was and I learned along the way. So I learned so much about the genetics that I was able to read through and really digest and be able to explain to the patient.
Wow.
And it was fun. A lot of excitement. So it's great.
Yeah. I mean, what a tool to be able to do more while still maintaining the quality and actually enhancing the amount of care that you're able to provide to patients. It's incredible. As we close out this episode, any final pearls that you'd like to share about Vibrant or how you might use it in your clinical practice?
One thing that I think has been really interesting this year to see is, coming from last year where I think we did the only AI session, there wasn't a lot of AI going on. And now it's amazing. It's great. AI is everywhere. And I think one of the great things about AI is it is very accessible. You can use ChatGPT, all these things, and people can start building and adding AI into their products. And everyone is kind of saying there's a lot of AI when we walk the showroom floors. But I do think it is super important to double click as a provider now into exactly what does it mean? Like, how is it being used? How is it built? What is the compliance and security around it? How much is it really solving what you're trying to solve for? And how robust is it? And I think at the end of the day, one of the things I'm very proud about and we take a lot of pride on in Vibrant is just the thoughtfulness and dedication to great product design, great experience, and very robust technical expertise that has gone into building Vibrant. So, high accuracy, high reliability. And so those are just things that you should be now aware of when you're trying to make a decision across the different kinds of tools that are out there.
Super important, especially when we talk about patient health information.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I think as a provider, especially if you're thinking about starting a practice, really realizing that AI can build so much of that confidence that you may be lacking. So we just did a webinar last week, and with some incredible physicians, within our department, and every single one of us had a similar experience, just lack of confidence going in.
Yeah.
When we were starting this practice, and I feel like Vibrant has just been that backbone of building that confidence for all of us.
I mean, confidence, creativity, joy, those are things that you don't commonly hear people talk about in clinical practice. So,
yeah, I love it.
Like I said, this is the magic one we've all been wishing for so long.
Great.
And thank you both for joining us for a great conversation today.
Thanks for having us.